I think Bulgaria had a little bit of transition from producing a lot of good value entry-level wine to now trying to reposition itself to a little bit more premium and wines with a little bit more terroir-driven wines.
Hey guys, this is Sid Patel, CEO of London Wine Competition, London Beer Competition and London Spirits Competition. We are live in London at the 7th Annual London Competitions. I have here Svetoslav Manolev, Master Sommelier, who's based out of London, Bulgarian born, I believe, right?
Born and raised.
And guess what? We're going to talk about Bulgarian wines. This is a very good value add for the producers in Bulgaria. And we're just going to jam on, basically what is the current state of Bulgarian wine industry, how it's perceived, how it has changed in UK, and some actionable tips that producers can do to sort of penetrate and grow in UK market. So thanks for joining me here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Great.
Thank you for having me.
So I think, why don't you give us a little context about your experience with Bulgarian wines and sort of obviously the other history that you have with Bulgaria?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Bulgaria is one of those I'd say probably forgotten old world countries that we've been making wines for since forever. But the country has been through so many ups and downs that I think we had a strong period probably in the 80s where I think Bulgarian Cabernet was probably one of the most selling wines here in the UK on trade. But then since then a lot of changes, and then the transition from state-owned wine industry
in Bulgaria
to privatization. There was a lot of changes, which I think is actually now a good thing. You can see that there is a big renaissance of Bulgarian winemaking, and there's a lot of also this, of course, the established wineries that have been producing wines for quite a while, but there's also a lot of smaller dynamic projects of young, well-traveled and experienced winemakers that bring kind of a bit of a freshness and a little bit of
a lot of new plantations, a lot of new wineries are popping up.
Some new plantings as well, but I wouldn't say there's that many actually. Overall plantings have been decreasing because I think Bulgaria had a little bit of transition from producing a lot of good value entry-level wine to now trying to reposition itself to a little bit more premium and wines with a little bit more terroir-driven wines. So now a lot of small producers are planting, but they're planting on a much smaller scale, and production is much smaller, which I think is keeping them quite agile and able to adjust to the current market.
Got it. But when you said dynamic things are happening, or the young winemakers are, so what do you mean by that? Like new grape varietals are coming, new categories are popping up?
I think both categories, varieties, both new and also reviving some local varieties as well. I think Bulgaria, for being such a small country, terroir is quite diverse. So I think that's probably the biggest change, that people are looking at those spots and rediscovering with new varieties. And you can find pretty much everything. Now, if you go to Bulgaria, you would see that the styles are really
top 3 or 4 sort of varieties, especially in UK, that is in demand. Or you would advise people to?
I would say still probably international blends, like Bordeaux style blends. This is something that we have been historically great at, and that's something I think that still sells well. But I think there is now a revived interest for local varieties as well. So things like Mavrut, they're quite popular here. I tried recently quite a lot of Cabernet Franc as well from Bulgaria, which is doing very well, particularly in the kind of northern Black Sea region. That's really great. Some local white varieties as well, like Dimyat, which is a little bit forgotten, also quite
doing good,
interesting. Other areas which I think worth keeping an eye on is so in the southern part of Bulgaria, the Sakar Mountain. Really suitable for Rhone varieties like Syrah, for example. Some really good examples from that area.
On the pure data, is the wine total number from Bulgaria Has it grown in 2023?
Well, it's interesting because, as I mentioned, Bulgaria, I think production overall has been pretty stagnant. So people are not producing more wine in terms of volume, but I think the quality is improving every year.
So for the producers, I mean, would UK be seen as a good opportunity to come and knock doors?
I believe so. I think the UK is a great market to be at, and it's a really good indication of where you are as a producer. Because although UK historically has not been a big wine producer, the average consumer is very well educated.
That's
true. I think the UK is a really good gauge of what the trends will be worldwide and how the markets will perform. So
that's a very good point, because I think this whole, the palette of the consumer has been, they're used to having so many international different domains, and especially a lot of immigrants in the hospitality industry, especially the Italians we see, I think they also hand sell, and they educated one at a time to the trade, I believe. That like how you would be, I'm sure, educating people on Bulgarian wines, right? So I think...
Yes, absolutely. I think wine is... a big part of wine is, of course, the origin, the story behind the label. Nowadays, of course, quality is almost... We live in a time where quality is pretty much a given. Your wines need to be great. But I think Bulgaria has a lot to offer.
What sort of, please name me like 3 or 4 suppliers that you think are doing a pretty good job out of Bulgaria in UK?
Well, I think there is, still, I think probably there's no big presence of Bulgarian wineries here on the market. But I like a few people that I think they're very good in presenting their wines. And I think this is also why they're doing very well. And their style, you can see year after year, is evolving. So in terms of producer, there is a small producer in the Sakar Mountain called Ivo Varbanov. Very good producer, and you can see him on the trade doing tastings with sommelier, showing his wines to the trade, and tasting his wines every year. You can see that the style is evolved, and I think he's still representing his own wines and a few other small wineries, which are also doing really great. In terms of importers, it's definitely worth mentioning people like the Old Cellar, so Dylan Kolev and a few other Bulgarian people originally from Bulgaria importing and presenting some wineries here. Nice. And I think they're doing a great job in being advocates for the country, speaking about the wineries, and they are also good in finding and sourcing those kind of small producers and bringing them over here and helping them showcase their wines on the trade.
Just one last one on, any tips for sommeliers of UK on what is a good way to sell Bulgaria? Like if I come as a consumer to your restaurant and I ask you, what is Bulgarian wine?
Well, I would say Bulgarian wine in the UK wine trade depends. When you speak to the consumer, so people that are kind of a little bit older generation, they have fond memories of, buying Bulgarian Cabernet for under a tenner and being a great quality and really, really well-made wine. Now, while the younger generation, I think, doesn't really have much exposure to Bulgarian wines. So for them, it's probably a good idea to present Bulgaria as kind of a maybe forgotten old world country. Because as I mentioned, on the territory of Bulgaria, wine has been made for, I wouldn't exaggerate if I say thousands of years. So it's winemaking is part of the culture. So there's a lot to try, a lot of exciting wines coming from the area, and a lot of passionate and very skilled young winemakers that are ready to showcase their wines.
Nice. Any other closing remarks for our Bulgarian producers?
Well, definitely come to the UK, show your wines to the market, get some feedback. I think the UK is one of the greatest markets in the world. Of course, it's highly competitive, but it's competition that really breeds winners. So definitely come to the UK, showcase your wines, and I'm sure you will do great.